David Kern is the chief economist at the British Chamber of Commerce, and he joins me now. Thank you very much for joining us. This does look like a particularly fragile time. What are your main concerns when you look at what's happening within the economy and what's happening to businesses?
Well, it is a tough time. I mean, the basic international situation is uncertain, particularly in the Eurozone with the debt crisis. In the UK, the government is pursuing a very tough deficit-cutting program, which we think is necessary. I mean, we think they should continue with it. We don't think there should be any plan B. But clearly, there is a squeeze on cash flows. Disposable incomes are being pressurized. So I think it's important, as you just mentioned, that the Bank of England keeps interest rates as low as possible for as long as possible. And the government, on its side, must pursue much more vigorously growth-enhancing policy, which means deregulating the labour market, keeping taxes low, making sure that businesses can export. Export is very, very important. In our economy, domestic demand is going to be low for some time. Clearly.
Consumer confidence figures are low, aren't they?
Low, absolutely. Export is our main hope. There are objective obstacles to exports. Europe is our biggest export market, and Europe is growing. Germany is growing. But elsewhere in the Eurozone, there are huge pressures. So the government must enable exporters to go there, particularly smaller businesses.
The pound, though, is very weak at the moment. That should be helping the export markets.
The pound is helping, but it's, as they say, it's necessary, but it's not sufficient. I think that the big companies are actually exporting quite strongly. But the smaller companies, the medium-sized companies, which have enormous export capacity, are not being enabled because there isn't enough export promotion, because export insurance is not provided sufficiently easily. So there must be much more effort.
So there are practical steps then that the government could be taking to help
I think there is. I mean, they've done quite a bit in the budget, but not enough. And I think at the moment, job creation is not enough because there are still a lot of onerous regulations that do not allow businesses to recruit.
Let's look at inflation. Mervyn King seems to, inflation obviously sitting at double what they would like it to. You obviously think, though, that that's the least of the problems that the UK has.
No, we think inflation is a very serious problem.
But you wouldn't want interest rates to be raised.
What we are saying is that inflation makes the squeeze worse because it makes people's incomes less, it pressurizes companies. Interest rates are a very effective tool to control inflation if the major problem is demand. If demand blows up and you want to restrain demand, you hike interest rates, you cool a bubble. But this type of inflation is cost inflation. It's not generated in this country. Utility prices go up. To increase interest rates now would make a squeeze on companies and individuals even worse.
So what could the government be doing, or should the government be doing, to tackle inflation?
On inflation, they can't do much. On inflation, they just have to allow it to burn itself out, and it will.